Hello and welcome to day 4 of BRSO's Discovery Concert Series. Today's an exciting day, and that's because we get to feature the Percussion family, one of my favorite families on the whole stage. Now, the Percussion family, they have such an important job with the orchestra. For one thing, a lot of times, it's their job to really keep a steady rhythm in the orchestra. Everybody in the orchestra can always hear the percussion instruments. And then the other job for them is to add all kinds of unique colors and sounds to the sound of the orchestra. Now, how do we do that? Well, there's two types of instruments that we have in the percussion family. We call them pitched and non-pitched. Pitched means that the instrument can actually change notes. It can play a melody if we had to. For example, on this side, Mr. Terry is going to show us a xylophone. Now, a xylophone is laid out an awful lot like a piano, just like, so if you play a piano at home, the wooden bars of the xylophone are laid out just like that. So it's kind of easy if you play piano, but there's a lot of technique involved. Let's hear a little melody on the xylophone. Okay, so you can notice the xylophone can go from really low to really high, and you can play any melody you want on the xylophone. Now, there are a couple of other examples of pitched percussion, and on this side of me, we have Mr. Chase on a large drum. We call this drum the timpani. Now, usually there's 4 timpani in the symphony orchestra. Each of them is able to play from a really high range to a really low range. And you must know by now that the larger the drum, the lower it can play, right? Well, there's still more, though, that each timpani can do, because we need to have all kinds of notes played. And there's a way that Mr. Chase can change the notes on a timpani. If you look maybe down by his feet, there's a pedal at the bottom of the drum, and Chase is going to be able to push down the pedal and listen to what happens to the sound when we change the way the pedal is going. So you can see when he pushes down the pedal, the notes get higher, and when he releases the pedal, the notes come back down. So sometimes you can set the pedal and lock it into place to play a very specific note, but then all of a sudden they may have to change them really fast, depending on the music in the orchestra. Now let's go to the non-pitched instruments. These are instruments, they really cannot play a melody, but they do add a very unique color to the sound of the orchestra. For example, the first non-pitched instrument we have is a tambourine, which you've probably seen before. Let's just take a listen a little bit to the tambourine. So there's 2 parts to that tambourine. First, you can shake the tambourine. Let's shake the tambourine. But you can also hit the tambourine in a certain way too that sounds like this. So you can also see that it has a wide range of what we call dynamics. Dynamics means loud or soft, okay? The next instrument we have that is a non-pitched instrument is the snare drum. It's got a very military type sound to it because, in fact, a lot of military armies a long time ago would march to the beat of a snare drum. Listen to this. Okay, exciting stuff from the snare drum. Now, the next really large drum on the stage behind me is called the bass drum. Now, this drum, it plays really low depth sounding notes like this. So, for example, if a composer wanted to simulate maybe thunder from a thunderstorm, we can kind of play that on the bass drum. Listen to this thunder roll on the bass drum one more time. The 2 drums from the percussion family that we're going to feature today are Afro-Cuban instruments. Now, they're called Conga Drums. Now, this is very unique sound to them because in one way, they are actually pitched, but then in another way, they're actually non-pitched because each instrument up here is tuned a different way. For example, one is high and one is low. Mr. Terry, he's on the high one. Let's hear a little demonstration of the high drum. Okay, and then Mr. Chase is on the lower one. Let's hear a little demonstration of that. Now, one thing you'll notice about this performance is that there's ways to make different sounds on the instrument depending on how you hit the instrument and where you hit the instrument. Can we hear one way of maybe the higher sound on your instrument? And you're going to see that Mr. Chase is going to play towards the edge of the drum. And now, maybe the deeper sound of the instrument. So as you can see, there's a lot of technique in playing these instruments. It's not simply shaking or hitting the drum. You really have to perfect how you do it. Let's get an example of this piece with Mr. Terry and Mr. Chase on the percussion.